Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the 4-3 show. For the first time in a while, at the start of the show, all four of us are here together. I am your host, Ryan Blank. I'm alongside Parker Dunn, Pat Fortuna, and Dominic Stern. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
Could not be better. I could not be better.
I'm hanging in there. Tough loss this weekend, but, happens. You can't win every game. Jared Goff versus Aaron Rodgers is certainly not favoring the Rams, despite the defenses.
Yeah, you've had a rough weekend with your Rams, Dom.
Yeah, it has been.
Yep. So let's get into it. We are going to do our quick pick'ems for this week of college basketball. We only have 7 games, but let's get into it. Starting off tomorrow night, we have number 18, Alabama, traveling to Louisiana to take on LSU.
If you like points, you're going to love this game. Both these teams have very prolific offenses, especially Alabama. LSU, they just absolutely refuse to play defense. I think Alabama's going to make enough stops to win this one on the road over the Tigers.
Give me LSU in this one.
Yeah, this is a good game. Very good SEC matchup. I'm going to take LSU as well. I think that they're going to bring a lot to the table here. Alabama has been absolutely incredible so far in conference play and are ranked for a reason. I'm going to go with LSU.
This was tough because last week I picked against Alabama and they whooped Arkansas. They whooped them. So I'm not going to do it again. I've been very high on Alabama. They're a very good team. Nate Oates is doing a terrific job. So I'm going to continue and actually flip from last week and go with Alabama. Next up, Seton Hall travels to number 3 Villanova, who will be playing for the first time since December 23rd.
Yeah, they're going to be kind of rusty. I still think they're going to get the job done. They're better at just about every single position. If Sandro Mamaskai-Shavili can play well enough for Seton Hall, they can win this game, but I will take the Wildcats.
Give me Seton Hall.
I'm gonna go with Villanova. The only thing in defense of that pick for Pat's sake is Villanova hasn't played since December. There could be some problems, but they're still a much better team. So I think they'll ultimately get it done.
Yeah, this is a tough pick because I'm afraid that you're going to see a flat Villanova team who hasn't played in nearly a month and who has had their last 6 games postponed. But I think they're just that talented and they just dominate and are better at every single position, like Dom said. So I'm going to go with Nova. Next up, moving on to Wednesday, we have Providence traveling to number 11 Creighton.
I'm going to take Creighton in this game. Big matchup this weekend between Creighton and UConn. Of course, we'll talk about it in a little bit. I'm going to take Creighton in this one. They could definitely get exposed by Nate Watson because Creighton really runs a small lineup with Creighton Bishop at the 5. He's like 6'7". He's definitely not a traditional 5-man. He can shoot the ball, though, so that's why he's in the lineup. Nate Watson, a big center, along with David Duke, point guard for Providence. They can certainly cause a lot of problems, but at the end of the day, I think Creighton offense is going to score too many points for Providence. I'm going to take Blue Jays.
Dom, you a big David Duke guy?
The basketball player, David Duke, yes.
Dang it, I was hoping you'd just say yes and we could clip it, end your career. But I'm going to go with Providence in this one, simply because Providence is about 45 minutes from my hometown.
All right. Sounds like a good reason. I do not live near Providence, and I'm not going to pick them, so I'm going to go with Creighton.
Hold on, Pat. Do you know where Creighton plays, though?
What the hell is a Creighton?
No, they play in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, not 45 minutes from my home.
Right.
That's only like 3 hours away from me. That's where my grandma's from, is Nebraska. But that's not the reason I'm taking Creighton. I think it's because their offense is so prolific. They are terrific at scoring the ball despite playing a smaller lineup. So that's why I'm going to pick Creighton in this one. Next up, we're going to move on to Saturday's slate of games. And we've got number 22, Illinois, traveling to East Lansing and the Izzone to take on Michigan State.
Really tough game to pick here. Both these teams have not been playing their best basketball of late. However, I know what Illinois is capable of. Everyone who knows me knows that I love the Fighting Illini, and I just love this team. I'm going to take Illinois here. Go Coburn.
This is a tough pick for me. They're both very good teams. As much as I hate the name Illini, I think I got to go with Illinois in this game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Illinois as well. They lost back-to-back close games, one of which was against Ohio State, who's looking really good right now. But I'm going to go and take them over Michigan State in this one.
I'm going to go with Michigan State. I don't think that Illinois is not playing at the top of their game, and I think that Michigan State's going to get themselves back into the top 25 with a win against the top 25 team on Saturday. Next up, Dom, you mentioned it earlier. Number 23 UConn travels to take on the number 11 ranked Creighton Blue Jays.
Yeah, so UConn just played earlier today against a very lackluster St. John's team and actually lost because they just weren't able to create enough space on the floor. St. John's played harder than them, and I don't see how they rebound on the road. You know, they're playing Connecticut. And Pat, where does Creighton play? You forgot. I just told you. Omaha, Nebraska. They got to go halfway across the country. They go play a team as prolific as Creighton, coming off a game where they just got beat. And I don't come back running that. I'm going to take the Blue Jays in this game as well. We're doubling up on Creighton this week.
You know what? I'm a big anti-Creighton guy because it's a stupid name for a school. My grandfather went to UConn. We're going UConn.
Another fair point. I'm going with Creighton.
I'm going with Creighton too. I think that they're going to get two big. I think they're going to get two big wins this week. Next up, we've got another great matchup as number 15 Ohio State travels to Wisconsin, who is ranked number 10.
Really tough game to pick here. Ohio State, they just beat Illinois, the Fighting Illini. Very impressive road win there. But Wisconsin is one of the more consistent teams in the nation, top 5 defense and one of the best offenses in the nation. I don't know where to go with this game because Ohio State's got a really good offense. I'm just going to take the home team in this one for Big Ten play. That's normally the safe bet. I'll take Wisconsin here.
Oh! H-I-O! Give me Ohio State.
This is the toughest one. This should be a really good game. Ohio State's playing really well as of late. I'm gonna go with Ohio State too. I know that the safer pick is definitely Wisconsin. I think that's a pick I'm gonna make 9 out of 10 times when you look at the different circumstances. Whether it's the fact that they're a Big Ten team at home, the fact that they have a really reliable defense. But someone's telling me to go with OSU on this one, so I'm gonna stick with it.
I'm going with Ohio State. I think they're playing their best basketball, and I think that Wisconsin, they did get murdered by Michigan, who just came off their first loss of the season after Parker and I were like, oh, yeah, our Michigan pick's looking great.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, I think Ohio State's playing terrific basketball. They're really hitting their stride, so I'm going to go with the Buckeyes. And finally, our last game of the week is number 2 Baylor, traveling to take on Oklahoma State and Cade Cunningham.
Really good game. It's kind of tough to pick this because Baylor plays Kansas tonight. Pivotal game for Ryan's Jayhawks tonight. I'm going to stick with Baylor. They haven't given me a reason to pick against them. They've only played one game that was decided by less than 10 points. They're, of course, undefeated, and that was last week. They beat Texas Tech by 8 points. So I'm going to take Baylor again. We'll see how they look later tonight on Monday against Kansas. And then Oklahoma State's a very good opponent, though, especially with Cade Cunningham.
Here we go, Baylor. I hear the name Baylor, and they're one of the few teams I hear, and I'm like, yeah, they're good. Yeah, so give me Baylor.
So they came off a big upset win over Kansas. Props to them and Cade Cunningham. I like what he's been able to do this year. He's going to be one of those top 3 picks. That's almost a lock, and that was a lock really going into the year out of high school for him. But I don't see them pulling off another big upset, especially against a team like Baylor. So I'm going to have to go with Baylor on this one.
This is tough because I saw Oklahoma State upset KU, and Cade Cunningham continues to showcase why he is Cade Cunningham and why he has the case to be the top pick in this year's draft and for the NBA. But Baylor is so good. Davion Mitchell, Jared Butler. I really, really like the Bears just because of how talented they are. They've got a great coach despite me not liking him. So I'm going to go Baylor in this one. So let's switch NCAA sports and move on to NCAA football. We only have one thing to talk about, and it is Tennessee. Tennessee has fired head coach Jeremy Pruitt. They're after an internal investigation revolving recruiting violations within the program. And I'm pretty sure that I saw that 9 other coaches as well have been fired. It is a mess at Tennessee. Dom, go ahead and start us off. What do you think of this?
It just shows that Rocky Top is Rocky Bottom. I mean, they just can't figure anything out. They thought they had all of the world figured out when Jones was their coach, and despite their will to win, turned out that he was a terrible coach. And then they wanted to hire Greg Schiano at Tennessee, and then of course fan base revolted, said we don't want Schiano, and then he ended up going to Rutgers, and I'm pretty sure Rutgers won more games this year in Big Ten football, despite starting later in the season than Tennessee did in SEC play. I know Tennessee got off to a promising start after a really strong finish to last year, but they're just a mess down there. Fulmer has been a disaster, and I'm not sure where they go from here. But yeah, there's a lot to clean up.
Well, I have one thing to say. I mean, they released these guys into a pretty bad job market considering the global pandemic. It's going to be really hard for them to find another job elsewhere. But I hope the best for them in their searches.
Yeah, this is a Tennessee team which doesn't need to have something like this going on right now. They haven't been in a good place as a program over the last decade, really. They've only had 3 winning seasons over that span. A lot of inconsistencies, a lot of disappointing years. So this just adds to that, and it only affects them more. So this is a program and a school that really, really needs to figure it out if they're going to look to bounce back and be what they used to be.
Yeah, when you're looking at this, it's when they were doing their internal investigation, they said that they found at least 2 assistant coaches and several recruiting staff members. Their actions could lead to findings of both level 1 and level 2 violations. That is not exactly the last thing you want to hear, and it's a mess. And you saw that Tennessee hired former Auburn defensive coordinator last week, who's Kevin Steele, to be a defensive assistant. He's now expected to be the interim head coach until someone is hired, or they could have him be the coach for the next season. It is a mess. And Dom, you mentioned Fulmer as well. He's a Hall of Fame coach who's been the AD for, I think, more than 3 years now. He is planning to retire after all of this. And that is shocking that you're going to see something like this happen just because of continuous mistakes made by your coaches for your football program. And Tennessee loves Fulmer. He coached the Volunteers for 16 years, I believe, getting them a national title in the late 90s. So it's a lot to break down there. So now they are looking to find a new athletic director and a whole slew of coaches. So it is a mess at Tennessee right now.
Yeah, it's not cheating until you get caught. Well, they got caught, and now it's a disaster.
Exactly. Cheaters never win, gentlemen. Remember that.
Well,
Red Sox won the 2018 World Series, so.
Whoa! I'm just saying here.
I mean, the Astros were the ones who really cheated.
I was going to say you should go for the Astros. They're the ones who actually cheated.
I think that's what that part was going at. I think that was what that was.
You can look at a ton of teams and a ton of different leagues, but yeah, the Astros are the most prevalent one in my mind.
Mean, Deflategate, Spygate. I could go endless routes here.
That was also in the back of my mind.
Oh, Dom, he's chugging.
Tom Brady,
get him, Jack, get him.
It's not true. It's not true. Tom Brady's innocent and Spygate was legal. Spygate was legal. Do you hear me? They just made it illegal because they were mad that the Belichick won.
Spygate is illegal.
No. Deflategate, though.
Shut up!
Dom, you opened up a whirlwind. Okay, let's move on.
All right, next topic.
we are now heading into the NBA where we've got just 2 quick topics.
100%.
Kyrie has the potential to return this week, and Katie and Harden have looked really good together. Their first game together, Harden puts up a triple-double. Katie scores 42. Where do we see Kyrie fitting into this mix?
Well, he'll be the one to derail it all. That's the good news. He'll be the one to come back and make it all a nightmare.
That is the question though. Like, how do you place Kyrie into that starting 5, and how does the trickle down effect? Like, what kind of pinball effect is there going to be because of this? And that's the big thing, because like I think that ultimately when you insert him into the lineup, that complicates things, because that's a guy who's ball dominant. He wants the ball in his hand. He's had that his entire career, whether it was with the Celtics, which was obviously riddled with injuries, or whether it was with the Cavs, also some injuries, but a lot of high moments back with that team that won the championship in 2016. So I'm very curious as it looks, because James Harden and Kevin Durant, former teammates, of course, from OKC, they look incredible. They're getting along well. They're playing good, and they're feeding off of each other's energy. We saw James Harden, trying to encourage KD and try and show support to him when he was off, getting ready to check in at the scores table. So I like what those two have done. But once you throw Kyrie in there, I think it complicates things, and I don't know if it's going to help. They definitely could explore moving Kyrie and trying to bring in some assets to help the bench if that is something that does become problematic.
Dom?
Yeah, I mean, I was the advocate for the Nets on the last show, and the first game, James Harden, 30-point triple-double. I mean, like, this thing's gonna work, and the people who say it's not gonna work are just haters from Eastern Conference teams, and they're just mad that they don't have 3 superstars like the Nets do. And I mean, there are better formed teams than the Nets.
Sorry, what did you say?
There are better formed teams than the Nets.
Thank you.
The Celtics are a better formed team. However, they don't have 3 players that can all go out and score 35 a night like the Nets do. Now, the team isn't very deep, but they can still go out and do nice things. I still think they're going to win the East. Kyrie's going to come back there and be even better. I'm sorry. Listen, he wants to win a ring without being LeBron's sidekick. He wants to go out and do it himself. I mean, obviously, him doing it with.
So now it's KD and Harden's third option.
Yeah, right. It's different, but he's not playing on his own. He's not playing with the second greatest player of all time.
But let me explain to you a little thing about Kyrie Irving. Let me talk about Kyrie for a second here.
Sure.
Here we go.
Kyrie Irving was on a team when he first came to the Celtics. It was a Celtics team of Hayward. Granted, he broke his leg 2 minutes into that. Horford, who at the time would be considered, I would consider him an upper-level star, low-level superstar at that time. And Kyrie derailed that organization. We had a young, blossoming Jason Tatum. We had Jaylen Brown. And as a Celtics fan, I watched Kyrie Irving, like a flesh-eating amoeba, devour our organization from the inside out. Kyrie Irving destroyed us. We very well could have made the finals in 2018 had Kyrie Irving not been Kyrie Irving. So and he won 1 finals where, let's be fair, he was carried by LeBron. You can't say he wasn't, even if you hit that big shot. I mean, Ray Allen hit a big shot with the Heat. That doesn't mean that he carried in those finals. LeBron carried him. Dwayne Wade carried him. That's how that was. So Kyrie is going to destroy this organization. He's going to do it. And whether or not it's this year, because this is his first year there, he'll do it. It'll probably be next year, though. So if they win this year, they win this year. But absolutely no chance they get anything done this year or next year. Kyrie Irving gets too antsy.
I'm telling you right now, I think, and I don't know how to say this nicely, but I'm going to try to not be inappropriate, but I'm going to say it like this. When Kyrie Irving returns, bleep is hitting the fan. That's how
if you're listening to this show, understand Ryan Blank won't be betting on the Brooklyn Nets.
I don't bet anymore, gentlemen.
Yeah, but I'm saying you wouldn't make a bet on the Nets.
No.
I just don't think that adding Kyrie into that mix is the best idea. because you're seeing
Why?
Harden and KD work very well together. They have
Yeah, so if you want to go out and trade Kyrie and go get assets, which they're not going to do, first off, let's make that very clear. This team has so much talent; it's unbelievable. I don't get why you guys are against it.
Yeah, I think this Nets team ultimately they have the thing is they did lose depth, losing LeVert. This is a different team with Kyrie, James Harden, and KD being that big three. I think they do still make it out of the East. The big thing I think is just how they function, because this is a team that, because you can have a ton of talent, but what makes teams different to have talent from teams that know how to play well and utilize their talent and their skill sets are being able to take a step back and let the other person do their thing and not step on each other's toes and be able to kind of facilitate each other in a sense, so that they're not just playing ISO ball. Because with the Warriors, Kevin Durant, I know I always compare it, but it's a good comparison because it's a team that has just as much talent. The big difference is they didn't rely on ISO ball, because KD would every once in a while. I know against the Rockets in the playoffs, you have to rely on it here and there, depending on the game or depending on the situation of the game. But they were always moving the ball around, whether it's Draymond taking it down the court, whether it's KD passing it to Steph in the corner where he's always running around. I just want to see how they play together, because their talents are there. We just can't see an ISO ball kind of game from them, because if they're doing that and they're not moving the ball around, it's going to limit the amount of possessions they get. And teams like the Lakers, should they meet in the finals, who played very cohesively, are going to take care of them.
I think that this has the potential to be a team that they have the potential to be the team in the NBA that dominates for years. They have that. They have the talent. And next year, I think, will be even more interesting with Spencer Dinwiddie coming back. I just think that if you are looking at a guy like Kyrie Irving, you have to think about how the chemistry is going to work. You don't have to worry about the talent. Kyrie's one of the most talented players in the NBA. Top 5 point guard, no doubt. But at the same time, he is a guy that ruined a terrific team in Boston with his attitude. And he wants to be the guy. That's all he's wanted his entire career. He isn't the guy. He's not. It's Kevin Durant and James Harden who are now alongside him. He's not the guy anymore.
What's funny about that move? When he wanted to sign with the Nets and become that guy, KD signed with him, so he automatically was never going to be that guy. So I just
right.
I'm gonna say one thing, and we're gonna bury this, and we're gonna move on to the next topic. To have Kyrie, KD, and James Harden all on the same team, that is the dream NBA 2K My League scenario.
Yeah.
However, in real life, when you have to deal with the locker room, that is when this becomes an issue.
And I think if you just tell them, hey, do what you have to do to win, and we're going to be just fine.
No, because their egos are so big that it gets in the way of winning. Kyrie Irving,
egos. This is a team that is
in the
best in the league.
Yes.
In the 2018 semis, Kyrie Irving shot the ball 70 times to show I'm the guy. You know how many of those shots he hit? 19. And you know what? The Celtics lost the series 4-1 to the Milwaukee Bucks. If he passed that rock a little bit more, we might have had a chance in that series.
Yeah,
but he let his ego get the best of him.
Celtics almost made it to the finals with Terry Rozier.
Yeah.
Without Kyrie, we almost made it to the freaking finals. With him, we wouldn't have gotten past the first round.
The key is, can Steve Nash figure it out and get them to where their egos don't get in the way? Because that's the main worry every time you make a super team is, can players' egos ruin it? Can they put their egos away and focus on what is important, which is winning? Then yeah, there you go. But also, if I'm the Nets, I got to be worried about the defensive side of the ball too. They gave the trade was smart because they wanted to bring in James Harden, who is one of the best scorers in the league. But you gave up your best defensive player in Jared Allen. And who do they have now at center? DeAndre Jordan, who doesn't play every night.
No.
So there's issues there.
they'll probably make some other moves to go along with this too. Like I don't think this is a completed team yet. No one's going to say that.
It's not a completed team. They have to add a big guy that can really make his move on the defensive end of the court. That's what I think is most important. Okay, let's move on to Karis LeVert. He was a piece in that trade. He was flipped from the Rockets, then to the Pacers. Extra compensation was sent to them because they found something wrong with his physical, and they found a mass in his kidney. What do you think that this means for the Pacers, and how long do you think Karis LeVert will be out for?
Obviously, it's concerning, but I'm sure that they will. They'll get him healthy. You'll get the best medical care in the world. That's what happens when athletes like this are found to be sick. But in terms of basketball, this makes the Pacers so much worse. The Pacers already made themselves worse in this trade, and then when he got flipped to them, everybody was like, "Oh, that's good for the Pacers, I guess, but still not great." And now they don't get anything out of it except for what, like $200,000
in a second-round pick now.
In a second-round pick. So I don't know. It doesn't sound very good for the Pacers from a basketball perspective. However, obviously everybody hopes Karis LeVert's okay, as do I. I'm sure he'll be fine. He'll get the best care that science has to offer. So,
Dom?
Yeah, I mean, this obviously doesn't help. And I mean, the reason the Pacers moved off from Oladipo to get LeVert was that way they could get some more years under LeVert's contract as opposed to Oladipo. So, I mean, then of course you get this and it obviously doesn't help. But it's weird because the Pacers were playing good basketball this year, so it's kind of odd for them to do this. I mean, hopefully the best for LeVert, but it's going to be a longer recovery because it's never fun.
Yeah, this is an interesting situation. This report came out not that long ago. They don't know what exactly it is. Obviously, they're still going through all the processes to diagnose whatever it is that is problematic to his kidneys. And that can never be taken lightly. They got to be able to do whatever it takes to make sure that he's all right. One thing that I always find interesting is, of course, in order to complete a trade in any league, you have to go through a physical and make sure the return is fair and that player is eligible and they're healthy and in good shape to go. And it's just crazy that you could find something like this when, had he not been traded, you would have had no idea, perhaps, until maybe whatever it is that he has got worse. So it's a good thing. A good change of scenery for him with the Pacers from a basketball perspective. He's a good, young, talented player. He had that season-ending injury 2 years ago, but he's bounced back very nicely. I'm a fan of his game, and I like what he's going to bring to the table. So, of course, hope that, they do whatever it takes medically to make sure that he's good to go and he's in good health. But I think it's a situation where you move on from Oladipo, you bring in LeVert, the change of scenery. Oladipo hadn't quite been the same since the injury, hadn't been very efficient, so I think they just wanted to bring in a new piece, and we'll see how he does whenever he eventually does return to the court.
I don't think the biggest thing was with Oladipo's performance, Parker. I think it's more of he didn't show that he was committed to Indiana past this season, and they felt like, if we're going to lose this guy, let's get something for him. And they got a great young player in Karis LeVert, who's been averaging over 18 points and 6 assists when he was with the Nets. So there's a ton of talent there, more years on his contract. But this is very concerning. This kind of reminds me of when they found the lump in Eric Berry's chest. It's completely different situations, but still it's that kind of scare that any fan will have, regardless if it's your team or not. So hopefully LeVert, he's going to get the right medical help, and he's going to be – hopefully everything is done carefully and quickly to where he can get back on the court as soon as he can. But, of course, the main thing is his health. With that, let's move on to the topic that we all want to get down to, the NFL. The divisional round has concluded, and we have our championship games. We have the Bucs, who will take on the Packers at Lambeau Field. Then we have the Bills, who will be traveling to Arrowhead Stadium to take on the Chiefs. What do you guys think of the divisional round from the past couple of days?
Well, let's start going game by game. Obviously, the first game was Rams-Packers. The Packers, they came off their first round bye. They came out fresh, and they absolutely dominated the Rams. at the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. There's really no other way to go around it. And I mean, it's a shame because that's where the Rams have really played well all season. And so for the Rams to just get owned at the line of scrimmage, watching the season end like that was not fun for me as a Rams fan. Obviously, you guys know I predicted the Rams to go 6-10 and finish in last place on the year. So the fact that the Rams won 10 games of the regular season and then won a playoff game exceeded my expectations by a mile. But to watch the Rams just get, at the hands of the Packers was no fun. That offensive line just bullied the Rams. The defensive line didn't get a sack or a turnover for the first time all year. Played 17 games. They got a sack or a turnover. And we all know the Packers play really smooth football. They make you stop them. They don't really turn the ball over a lot. And that certainly was the case in this game. And then Aaron Donald being hurt, of course, didn't help. He was on a limited snap count as it stood. But it was tough. Rams had a great season. I can't complain too much, but Packers own the Rams.
Yeah, and then you just moved down to the next one with the Ravens and the Bills. That was a game where just going in, especially the day of, I had a strong feeling that it was going to be a defensive battle because, yeah, you can look at the matchups. You look at the two talented young quarterbacks from the same draft class with Josh Allen and then Lamar Jackson, but that was not the case. It was the defenses that took over, and, of course, Lamar came out. Tyler Huntley, former Utah quarterback, came in. That one throw that he had past Marquise Brown was killer because that was a breaking coverage. He went right on by Tre'Davious White and would have made it a one-possession game. Obviously, it's coulda, woulda, shoulda. But, you always have to wonder if that's Lamar and he's in there to make that throw. It could have been a very different game because that really, really was a backbreaker for them to not be able to get that. Just being able to barely score as it was with Lamar on the field, to see that definitely hurt. But that was a game where you just saw that Bills defense really take over. They did exactly what they needed to do going into that game. The offense did just enough, but it was very good defensive standpoint from them.
Well, I really enjoyed watching this divisional round because I got to watch my boy Tom Brady back in action. When the Patriots missed the playoffs, I get to watch Tom Brady play. That's always exciting. I also got to watch my boy Chad Henne get a couple good snaps.
Oh, you gotta let me talk about that one. Come on.
I will. No, but I was such a big Browns fan in that game, and all they had to do was beat Chad Henne in the back half of that game, and they couldn't do it. But a lot of these games went the way I wanted this weekend. I wasn't necessarily rooting for or against the Rams. I would be happy with either team that won there. I think the Packers are overall the best team left, and I don't even think that's really a very big debate. But the way the Bucs defense looked last week, I think that they absolutely stand a chance next week against these Packers. So,
okay, so I'm gonna go game by game, then go to the Chiefs. The Rams game. What it came down to was the entire first half was dominated by the Packers, mainly because they just took care of the ball and they dominated time of possession. They doubled the amount of plays that the Rams ran in that on offense, and I think that was big. I think that touchdown to Devontae Adams was probably one of the best play calls I've seen from LaFleur in a while. Just a way to have him motion to the other side to get him open on against a guy like Jalen Ramsey was huge. That was a big play. And it sucks to see Aaron Donald in pain because we know the impact that he makes on every single game. This was only the second game since 2017 actually, that he has recorded 0 pass rush wins. And you just saw he was in pain throughout the entire game. But what it came down to was plays made by the Packers defense that ultimately led to them getting that game. And I think it's the same way for the Bills game. Teron Johnson made a terrific play. Lamar's first interception of his career in the red zone. And that was a great play by him, returning it 101 yards for the score. And that's really what I think put the nail in the coffin, so to speak. And their defense just completely stepped up. And Josh Allen, they did not play that well. They didn't. But they did what they had to do to take care of the ball and win. The rushing offense wasn't there, but still, they got the job done. And now they're heading to their first AFC championship since 1993. And then I'm going to skip the Chiefs real quick, knowing me. That was a tough game to watch if it's Drew Brees' last game of his career. 3 interceptions to end your career. Just it's horrible to see. I hope he returns just for one more season. But overall, that Bucs defense was terrific. They looked really good. I think the momentum turned in that game was by far that fumble from Jared Cook. That was a great play, and you got to give credit to the constant plays made by that Bucs defense. Brady didn't have the best game, but he had 3 touchdowns, and he got the job done.
Brady was bad. Say this. Their offensive touchdowns only came off of turnovers. Their offense sucked.
Yeah.
Their offense could not get down the field.
And I mean, the Saints defense is better than the Packers defense. I'm not going to sit out here and lie like that. But the Saints defense absolutely dominated and just bottled up the Buccaneers offense. They weren't able to do anything except for when the offense let them down. And that's kind of like what we saw with the Rams all year. And that's what happened to them. It's a shame that, like you mentioned, Drew Brees is going to go out like that. But everything that they did was done by himself. So, yeah, I'm concerned about the Bucs going into going into Green Bay. I don't think their offense is going to be able to do much.
Yeah, the offense struggled to get down the field. They took advantage of the opportunities that they had with the advantage of the turnovers, which is great to see. But there's going to be that concern because the Packers don't turn the ball over much at all. So they're going to have to force turnovers if their offense is not getting down the field. But let's get into the Chiefs. Wow, that was scary.
Best game of the weekend by far.
And I was feeling good at halftime. The offense scored on their first 4 drives. Should have been 5, but Harrison Butker cannot make anything from
33 yards
from extra point range. So that's definitely worrisome for me because those 4 points almost came back to bite the Chiefs. And I don't know if it's the switch and holder this year or what, but Harrison Butker's got to figure it out real quick. So that was frustrating, but I was tremendously happy with the defense. Going against the 3rd best rushing offense in the league who averages over 170 yards per game and holding them to 112, that's terrific. Held Chubb and Kareem Hunt to just over 100 yards. That's terrific. That's not what I expected. Tyrann Mathieu was all over the place, as per usual.
Yeah.
First postseason interception for him. Of course, there's a controversial play of Daniel Sorensen with the fumble. I'm going to put it out there. That did not cost them the game whatsoever.
The Browns?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
That did not cost them the game.
100% that cost them the
That
game.
was 7 points right there. They lost by 5, Ryan. What are you talking about?
No. What cost them, in my opinion, was that final drive where they punted with over 4 minutes left because Baker decided that was the best play to throw it to Kareem Hunt in the flat for 2 yards and then having to punt.
Well, it's because Chris Jones put pressure on him, and that was the option. What are you talking about?
Last drive, I think, is what cost them. It was not that play by Sorensen.
Well, yeah, I mean, they had an opportunity to win it, but they would have had the ball on the 1 yard line if Higgins just doesn't reach the ball to try and score.
Yeah.
Well, it should be ingrained in the NFL players' minds. You got the first down. Like if you're on 3rd down, if it's 4th down, you got to reach out. But if he just goes and tucks in and tries to embrace the hit, and then he goes across at the 1, then cool, you score the touchdown. If not, you have the ball at the 1 yard line.
Exactly.
But no, Richard Higgins tried to reach it out, and the ball got hit out, and they scored 0 points from it. How can you not say that cost them the game? That clearly did. And
I don't think
that's just wrong. I'm sorry. And the people are talking about the helmet to helmet. The helmet to helmet, obviously, Sorensen shouldn't go on like a rocket at him, hands on his side, but that's not a penalty. He wasn't defenseless, so it wasn't a penalty. The people are trying to justify that. We're just trying to justify anything to try and knock the Chiefs off. But that play 100% cost them the game. There's 7 points right there.
I don't think that overall cost them the game. That's my opinion from what I saw. I think more that the play calling and how they handled that last drive did. So
I don't know what to tell you.
But you can say whatever you want about helmet to helmet. He wasn't a defenseless player, like you said, Dom. I don't think that was as big of a deal as people made it. But if people want to say helmet to helmet, and I'm not just saying this because I don't like Kareem Hunt, he did it when he was a Chief too. Every time he runs the ball, he leads with his helmet every time. If you want to throw flags for leading with your helmet, you got to throw one on Kareem Hunt too. He's done it.
Why?
He said this when he was a Chief. He did it every single time yesterday when he got those 6 carries. He leads with his head every single time. And if you want to play that game of helmet-to-helmet contact, go that way too, of leading with your helmet. But when Mahomes went down, you can ask Parker, I almost had a heart attack. And it didn't look like a concussion to me. I thought it was something with his neck.
Yeah, he didn't hit his head at all.
Yeah. And the good news is he passed all the tests, which is big, as long as for next week. And it seems like the reason they kept him out not only was because of the effects, but also might have been precautionary for next week. Is there any doubt that Mahomes is playing? He's not. He's going to play. There's no way he doesn't. But overall, I was scared after that Chad Henne interception. What made him think it's a great idea to throw deep downfield to Demarcus Robinson? That's a horrible idea. But
Yeah, it was bad.
anything is possible, baby. Anything is possible. That run, I thought he got it at first, but then you saw the elbow get short. And then that exact play call to Tyreek to clinch it, that's the exact play call that Andy Reid had on that 4th and 1 with just over 2 minutes left against Miami to clinch the game. That's what the exact play call was. And it was big. It was big to see that for the Chiefs and to have Chad Henne come in. The defense played great. Offense did enough in the end, but Chiefs got to get healthy for this upcoming week. They have to. They got to get Sammy Watkins back. They got to get Clyde Edwards-Helaire back, and they got to make sure Mahomes is healthy.
When did this become the Chiefs show? Jesus.
Well, I mean, the Chiefs are one of the 4 teams remaining.
Yeah.
I mean, if we want to hear me talk about how the Bucs are going to get dismantled by the Packers, we can talk about that.
We'll
We want to
get
hear me talk
Time.
If we want to talk about how the Bills have an insanely good red zone defense and how it's going to give the Chiefs a ton of problems on Sunday. We can talk about that.
We'll get into that. There's a few head coaching hires I want to get into real quick.
Oh, don't make me talk about it.
Oh, we are making you talk about it. We have 3 head coaching hires this week. Arthur Smith, the former Titans offensive coordinator, was hired by the Falcons. Dan Campbell, special assistant for the Saints, hired by the Lions. And then Brandon Staley, the defensive coordinator, former defensive coordinator now for the Rams, was hired. But guess by who? Dom's least favorite team in the NFL, the Los Angeles Chargers. So, Dom, we know which one we're going to make you talk about, so take the floor.
Yeah, Matt Campbell to the Lions. I think this is a pretty good hire. No, I'm just kidding. Brandon Staley to the Chargers, I think, is a pretty solid hire for them. I mean, he came in, kind of changed the culture for the Los Angeles Rams defense. The Rams defense over the past couple of years had just been a lot of personalities, hadn't really gotten the job done. And this year they were absolutely dominant. I mean, I don't know if there's like an official stat on this, but it felt like every single time they allowed a touchdown, it was right after an LA Rams turnover. Like, they just refused to let anyone drive down the length of the field. And most of the drives that the offense didn't go down the length of the field, they had to work their way the entire way. The Rams, they led the league in the least amount of plays that were over 20 yards. And I can't speak matters in how pivotal Staley was for the Rams season. The offense at times was super inconsistent. They would always leave points on the board in the red zone. They would turn the ball over. But the defense was always that constant, and that's why it was kind of odd on Saturday that the Rams just got killed on defense. And the Chargers, they haven't really had a guy that's come in and really emphasized fundamentals. They've always been a very not clean team. They've always just lacked what's the word? Discipline. And I think Brandon Staley is going to do a really good job of that. And the defense, obviously, they have to stay healthy because, as we all know, that's always their biggest problem. Joey Bosa, I believe Melvin Ingram's still under contract for 1 more year. Derwin James, Casey Hayward. He's got a lot of talent to work with in Los Angeles. And with young phenom quarterback Justin Herbert, the Chargers could make a good run at the AFC West next year. And obviously the Chiefs are still going to be good next year. But the Chargers, I think they finally got a head coaching hire right. I mean, just about everyone knew when Mike McCoy got hired, it was like, okay, he wasn't really a big part of the Denver offense. Like that was Peyton Manning being Peyton Manning. The Tim Tebow here was the best defense in the league, carrying Tim Tebow. And he came in and he just didn't do anything. He was worthless. And Anthony Lynn was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo for 1 year after being the running backs coach in Buffalo. And Chargers fans were like, what are we doing here? And the offense was fine, but he just was never consistent enough with his play calling. And the team really started to play well after we were in the playoffs this year. Consistently underachieved, and I think Staley is going to turn it around. And I hate it for, one, the fact that the Rams are losing their DC, and two, for the fact that he's going to my least favorite team. It's just worst case scenario for me. It was already a rough week, and that happens too. Right. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, we'll let you go ahead. We'll get off of Brandon Staley. We'll go ahead and move on. Pat, Parker, what do you guys think about the other two hires of Campbell to the Lions and Smith to the Falcons?
I mean, they're new faces. They're going to try and turn things around, but there's really not too much to go off other than that. I mean, I don't have, great background research or knowledge on the two candidates and what I feel like they're going to bring to the table the way I would with Brandon Staley. You see the results of what he did with the Rams. Obviously, I don't know what you're talking about him, but he was the Broncos linebacker coach before he was the defensive coordinator over there in LA, and he did some good things for that Denver defense, which has been that steady point. And as for those other two coaches, I'm sure they're just looking to go in there and try and work around the rosters and work with the draft capital that they've been left with.
Yeah. I mean, there's really not too much to say that wouldn't be oversaturating the conversation.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead. Dan Campbell, I think, is an interesting hire. I know that I don't know much about him. I know he's 44. He's been a part of the Saints for a few years. It's just I don't know what he brings that Patricia didn't, because he had the emphasis on defense, even though his defense was horrible. I don't see what he brings as much, but I think fresh face, I think it's going to be big for them to get a new guy in there because they've got to do something. They've got to turn around. The Lions have been kind of a laughing stock of the league for the past few years. But the hire I really like is Smith to the Falcons because that opens up a lot of creativity on the offensive side of the ball. I think that's the biggest focus for them. So I think that getting a guy who's offensive-minded now as your head coach is big. And then Staley, I think, is going to succeed a lot with the Chargers. Like Dom said, they've got a lot of talent in Bosa, Melvin Ingram, Derwin James, even though he's coming off injury, Chris Harris Jr., and Casey Hayward. So I think all these hires are going to be beneficial. The one I'm most iffy about is Dan Campbell. But let's preview the two matchups that are in 6 days away. Let's start out with the Bucs at Packers. What do you guys see in this game, and who are your winners?
I see the Packers coming out and making them look like what the Rams did. I mean, I don't know what else to say. The Packers' offensive line is so damn good. Now, Vita Vea ends up returning. He got designated for a return this week. If he comes back, that's definitely big for the Buccaneers. That's a big man up front to go up against All-Pro Corey Linsley. But the offensive line was just so good. And they would be even better if they had Bakhtiari, who tore his ACL prior to Week 17. But I think that the Packers are going to own the offensive line again, own the line of scrimmage, and they're just going to be able to go out there and dominate. They're going to take advantage of the home crowd, which was fairly loud, and they're playing with fresher legs than the Buccaneers, who have now had to play 2 straight playoff games as opposed to the Packers' 1 playoff game. That was something I really noticed, because both the Packers and the Chiefs scored on all of their drives in the first half coming out of the bye. I think the Packers carry over what they were doing, and I think they go here and they beat the Bucs by around 10 points.
Yeah, I like the Packers a lot in this one. Just throughout the course of the season, I was just skeptical because this is the same record, and obviously I'm not going to compare them to 2 different teams. They've competed at a different level, but they were 13-3 last year, and they just always came off as frauds, and the 49ers exposed them. This is the other way around this year. This team could not be more complete. That Bakhtiari injury hurts so much because he's so good. Best left tackle in the league. So to not have a guy like that hurts. But that offensive line is such a complete unit that you know that you're going to be fine with them. You know what Aaron Rodgers is going to bring to the table. He has a chance to have a Super Bowl berth, and that is something that he hasn't had for a while. I mean, he hasn't had teams, he hasn't had a defense, he hasn't had all the pieces that he needs to truly have a good chance at that. And now the opportunity is right at his front door. So I expect him to play extremely well. Vita Vea is a huge acquisition for that Bucs defense. I just don't see them doing enough against the Packers. We showed how complete of a team they are. And I feel like when you look at both sides of the ball, I'm heavily favoring that Packers offense. I think that they're going to do some damage. Although the Packers defense can be a little bit iffy here and there, I don't think that with all the weapons that Tampa has, that's something to be worried about. I think they get the job done.
This is Tampa's game. I'm sorry. The Packers are overall, I would say yes, the better team. However, you go into championship game experience, I will never, ever bet against Tom Brady, ever in my life. He could be 500 years old, rising from the tomb to play a championship game, and I would bet on him. They could be using his corpse on strings. And I simply cannot bet against Tom Brady in the championship game. He is too good. He is too smart. And this Buccaneers offense, granted, it didn't look too good against this incredible Saints defense, mind you. Incredible defense.
He was terrible.
Against the Saints defense, have you seen that secondary?
Yeah, they're good.
It's a great defense, but they couldn't get down the field. And this is Tom Brady, the GOAT. He should be able to get down the field with the weapons that he has.
Dom and I had this conversation last night. He's not the GOAT right now. So what he has to do is he has to extra. I don't think he was quite ready for this game to be as difficult as it was for him on offense. So I think if he practices well enough, he has the weapons that if he goes in fearless next week, he can win this game.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say the Bucs can't win this game. That would be a foolish statement of me to make. But the offense was terrible. They only scored because of turnovers, or they only scored touchdowns because of turnovers.
Yeah.
And they were able to get field goals, which was fine. But if Drew Brees doesn't turn the ball over, they're down by 7. And Jared Cook caught a first down pass, was across midfield. And then Antoine Winfield made a fantastic play to basically, I think, save the game.
I mean, a touchdown's a touchdown. A touchdown's a touchdown. So, and Tom Brady had 3 of them. Yes,
right? But now you're going to have to go on the road. You're going to be playing in freezing temperatures, which I know Tom can play in. I'm not saying he can't. But they practice in Tampa Bay, Florida. Not a lot of their team is used to doing this. They're going to have to go on the road and beat Aaron Rodgers against a team that just does not turn the ball over. I don't see them doing it.
I agree.
I mean, if the Buccaneers come out and they are slinging on offense, all cylinders go, they can win this game. I think it's a very reasonable thing that they could do. And we know how Aaron Rodgers is in championship games. He doesn't have the best relationship with them.
That's a point, but I'm going to go with the Packers. I think that the troubles that you saw with Brady getting down the field are still warranted. Yeah, there's not as good of a defense with Green Bay, but one of his top options in Mike Evans is going to be going against one of the best corners in football in Jair Alexander. And I think that you saw the pass rush get to Goff multiple times. And Brady's line isn't terrific. It's a fine line, but it's not above and beyond. It's not a line like the Packers. So I think that's going to have another effect. I think the Packers are going to take it. Now let's move over to the AFC game, the late game. Not Bucks. Bills travel to Arrowhead to take on Chiefs. Who do you guys think?
Give me the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs. Chiefs Kingdom. I've been here since day one. I'm an OG Chiefs fan. Been here since the Joe Montana days.
Dom, go ahead.
I'm going to take the Bills here. The Bills have been playing much better football than the Chiefs have ever since week 10. They just have. I didn't think their offense looked that good, but I mean, we all know, like I said, the Saints defense is better than the Packers defense, but at the same time, the Ravens defense is much better than the Chiefs defense. So I think the Bills offense is going to be able to do enough against the Chiefs defense. The Chiefs offense has kind of struggled in the red zone a little bit. They weren't able to always finish drives. The Chiefs offense was just moving. Then again, in the red zone, they kind of flutter a bit. And I think that's where the Bills can really take advantage. And I think they'll get enough red zone stops. And the Bills offense, which is just as prolific, is going to be able to finish off drives and get a touchdown.
Yeah, I like what the Bills defense was able to do out there. They went up against a very good Ravens defense, so obviously I would like to see more from Josh Allen and that offense, especially based off of the week that they had prior with the Colts game. They were much more well-balanced then, but this is still a team that went up against that Ravens team that did look very good going in, and if you can see how they dominated on one side of the ball, I can assure that this offense is definitely going to play much better this week. And I just love what Josh Allen's done. He broke the record for the Bills franchise record of Jim Kelly's passing touchdowns. Him and Stephon Diggs have an incredible connection. And you just see every single week, it's just whether it's the offense or it's the defense, if one of them is a little lackluster, the other one picks them right back up. And that's the beauty of it because there hasn't been much rust on either side. You know what you're going to get out of this team. It's hard to pick against the Chiefs. We know what they did, and we know how that Browns win was. It was a great game. And they're the defending champs for a reason. They only lost 2 games for a reason, but I just love what the Bills have done as of late, and I just feel like I can trust that defense more. And I know this wasn't the case last year, but defense typically is what wins games in the playoffs and gets you a championship. So that is what I'm going to go with.
I just want to point out how funny it is that while we're having this conversation, Ryan Blank is out fighting with a fan in chat because he's very upset about his Chiefs bias.
It's not biased when I think that's not why they lost the game. But AFC Championship, here's what I think. I think that the Chiefs are going to win. You guys could say it's biased, whatever.
You think the Chiefs are going to win because you're a Chiefs fan, and that's fine. I want the Chiefs to win too.
Here's why. You could say all you want. The Chiefs have not been playing great football. They look great up until the Mahomes injury yesterday. If Mahomes plays, the Chiefs are going to win this game. If not, I really don't know, and I'd probably pick the Bills. But I think Mahomes is going to play. And here's the thing. You can throw his zone defense at Patrick Mahomes. He will line up his zone defense. You want to blitz against Mahomes? Horrible idea because he's one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz. Here is where I think the difference is going to be. The Chiefs' defense yesterday, whenever a play needed to be made, they made the play. Sorensen causing that fumble. Ward with the open field tackle on Kareem Hunt on that 3rd down. Whenever plays need to be made, they made plays. The offense is going to be fine. The offense will be at full health with Sammy Watkins coming back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming back, who had a beast game against them in Week 6, and Mahomes will be healthy. So that's why. But I want to bring up a little factoid before we go real quick. These 2 teams faced off the last time the Bills made an AFC Championship game, which was in 1993. The Bills won that game when Joe Montana, who was the quarterback of the Chiefs at that time, went out with an injury. And the Bills ended up winning that game and going to the Super Bowl. But I'm telling you right now, the Chiefs' defense has looked really good. They've made plays when they had to. And the offense, I have complete trust in. Kelsey has been insane this year. Kelsey and Tyreek Hill combined for 16 receptions yesterday for over 200 yards. They both were terrific. I expect more from the run game. So I think the Chiefs are going to win. All right. That is going to conclude this episode of the 4-3 Show. We will be back next Monday to break down championship weekend and the Super Bowl. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great rest of your week, and go Chiefs.